everybody, my name is Nathan Burden. This is my lovely wife, Lacey, and today we're going to be covering over contract versus covenant marriage and how building a strong foundation is extremely important for your marriage.
Yes, absolutely. So before we get started into the discussion, I'm just going to read a little excerpt out of a book that we just recently read called The Total Marriage Refresh by Dr. Wyatt Fisher. And he talks about the difference and contrast between a contract versus a covenant marriage. And I think this is something that is so prevalent in today's society, and it was definitely relative in our relationship in the beginning. So, contract versus covenant marriages. There are two approaches to marriage, the contract and the covenant. The contract is most relationships today and is entirely based on feelings. It says, I'm committed to you as long as my needs are met, I'm in love, and I'm happy. However, the moment you stop meeting my needs, I'm not in love with you anymore, or I'm not happy. Divorce becomes a viable option. You know, this is most marriages in our culture today because those are the reasons you hear for divorce. There's nothing wrong with feeling deeply satisfied in marriage. In fact, that's the ultimate goal of marriage this book will help you achieve. However, when our commitment is 100% contingent on our feelings, our marital union becomes fragile because feelings ebb and flow. In contrast, the covenant marriage is based on principle and says, I'm committed to you despite having seasons of winter when my needs aren't met. I'm not in love and I'm not happy. Covenant couples sign up for the long haul through sickness and health, for rich, for poor. It's a covenant you're making with your partner lifelong. The only exceptions in a covenant marriage where divorce is permissible are the 3 A's: adultery, abuse, and abandonment.
There's a lot in there, and I feel like we need to unpack just a few of them. So number one is love is not just a feeling, it's an action.
Multiple actions.
I think that's one thing that I'd love to touch on right now is let's act upon love, and let's, with confidence, know that we're going the distance in a marriage. And that is, with business, I always, we'll consult with companies and we'll say, hey, well, why do you do what you do? It's important for you to have a mission statement that will allow you to get through hard times because the why is very, very strong. So with a marriage, it's the same thing. Well, why do you want to go the distance? Why do you want to have a thriving relationship, right? So it'll get you through those hard times, and knowing that a covenant is something that's so important that you go all the way.
Well, I think the foundation on which you start a relationship is so important. And obviously, I think most people realize when you actually break it down like that, that marriage is a covenant. Yet so often we fall into that contract mindset. And all of a sudden we fall out of love because love was a feeling and love was them meeting our needs and et cetera, right? But really, a covenant marriage is a foundation where you look at every obstacle that you come across as, how are we going to get through this? Not how am I going to get out of this, right? And I think when we started our relationship, I personally had, and it's not like I realized the difference, but I had a contract mindset. I had a mindset of nothing is permanent. Nothing is going to force me to stay in a situation that I don't feel like is a good situation for me. And so when rough times came, that was like, it was too easy to go for that. And when you have that covenant mindset, divorce isn't even in the conversation. And not only that, but you don't even allow the issues that you're going through to get to the point of that escalation, right? Usually by the time somebody's talking divorce, it wasn't because of one action. It was because not actively loving, which is a decision, it's a discipline, not actively loving the other person unconditionally through every season and through everything that they're going through. And I think that's really kind of what it comes down to is it's a discipline. Love is actually a discipline of,
that's good.
Regardless of how it makes you feel, you're not tuned into your feelings as much. You're tuned into the principles and the decisions that you've already made.
It's the decision once you make that decision. I mean, this could be reading a book that you don't really want to read at first, and then all of a sudden you start to read it, and then wow, I'm actually starting to like it. And then you
Exercise.
start, right, exercise, willpower, all these things that's a muscle. And building a strong relationship is like a muscle as well. I mean, every day it's a
Mhm.
choice. Am I going to do a covenant, or am I going to do a contract today?
Mm.
That then leads into a week, that then leads into a month, right? And understanding, knowing your partner's love languages, and all these things that we've touched on before. Also, making sure that subconsciously and subliminally, the information that you're feeding yourself on a daily, weekly basis is healthy to
Mm.
push you
Yes.
forward in a new light, in a better light, and it's going to uplift yourself as well as your relationship. This flighty culture today that is swipe right, swipe left, quick, get what I want now, that doesn't build a sustainable long-term relationship, and that's what a marriage is meant to be.
Yeah, and kind of going off of what he was saying, we're constantly 95% of our daily actions are all operated out of our subconscious. And so we're doing the same patterns on a daily basis. We have the same thought processes. We are taking in the same external stimuli for the most part, like if you're going to work, if you're doing things right. And what happens with that is that's all influencing how you're acting and the decisions that you're making on a daily basis. So if you're being reactive to all of this rather than proactive and saying, hey, I don't want to watch stupid TV shows all day. I don't want to listen to songs about, I don't even know, right? I
Mhm.
don't even know what that song was about. But instead being disciplined and being proactive about, hey, we're going to read a marriage book every night before bed. We're going to listen to different podcasts. We're going to take in information, not because we're struggling right now and we need to fix an issue, but because we are adding tools to our tool belt so that when we do come across an issue, we can work together. We have the same tools and resources that we can come together and say, "Hey, let's build this. Let's get through this together," rather than coming into a marriage with only your previous perspective and what was passed down to you relationally or what you've learned or seen or heard, and then you're taking that into a marriage with two different people with two different perspectives, and now you're coming up against problems and you're handling them completely differently, but you're still acting as an individual. So this goes back to that oneness as well. Is when you do come into that covenant marriage, you're coming into oneness. You're becoming one and one unit. And when you're bringing in that information together, it helps you work together towards the real issues and the real problems. But I remember I had, and I don't know if I told you this out loud before, but I remember somewhere after we had gotten back together and we were continuously going to marriage retreats and reading marriage books and having mentors and all the things to just pour into our relationship. And I remember thinking or saying to somebody, but hey, there's no option to not be married, right? So you may as well make it the best it could possibly be. When you look at your relationship like that, and I know it sounds kind of silly, but when you look at like divorce isn't an option, so you may as well make it the best it can possibly be, right? And when you look at it like that, when you're looking at, fertilizing what you have and taking care of what you have rather than looking at what else is out there and what's new and what else you could have, that'll change all the perspective in your relationship of what you're actually doing and how you're working on it.
Sounds like you want to fight, but the fight is against sounds like the fight is against everything that's external that is causing issues within our relationship. So that's what we're going to fight against. And we're also going to fight against and continue to develop actually a preventative marriage. Preventative as opposed to putting band-aids on things, okay? But anyway, that's our call to arms, call to action for you guys to out there to continue to build a thriving marriage. And thank you once again. And if you like this video, feel free to subscribe and also share with your friends. We look forward to seeing you on another video in the future.